Hi, I'm Max Temkin, one of the co-creators of Cards Against Humanity, and this is Tabletop Deathmatch, a competition to find the next great tabletop game. Last year, over 500 people submitted their unpublished games to a panel of expert judges. 16 finalists came to Gen Con to pitch their games in person, and one of those games will win a first printing paid for by Cards Against Humanity and be named the champion of Tabletop Deathmatch.
My name is Marcus Ross.
And I'm Kara, and we designed Discount Salmon. We're cousins.
Yeah, our mothers are sisters.
Yeah.
Discount Salmon is a fast-paced card game for 2 to 5 players.
It gets people laughing, and since it's a speed-based game, everybody is racing against each other and like occasionally knocking each other's hands into each other.
Look, ugly and not a fish.
Oh.
It's still ugly.
Oh.
And it's so quick to learn. You go from not knowing what you're doing to just being right in there, just playing cards as fast as everybody else. Second round. It's really good. We've got a gaming group, and we're into absolutely everything. So we'll play Pandemic. I'm into cooperatives myself, so Pandemic and Castle Panic and I'm trying to think, there's so many great games.
My favorite kinds of games are more abstract games like Quirkle and Blockus, and puzzle kind of games like that are my favorites.
Assuming I can... wow!
Oh.
Wow!
Tiny trophy
is yours. Thank you for playing our game. To encourage people to play test for us, we started making these little bitty trophies. You put the trophies out next to the game and you're like, play test our game, you can win the trophy. And that generally gets people interested enough to give it a shot. And we get a lot of feedback that we wouldn't ordinarily get. It works really well. We're still working on it. I mean, we were editing the rules last night.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell us about Discount Salmon.
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting us. Thrilled. My name's Marcus.
And I'm Kara.
And our game is Discount Salmon. For Discount Salmon, I did most of the core mechanics and the core concept.
Yeah, and I did all of the art, and I also helped with a little bit with the mechanics, but that's mostly Marcus.
The premise of the game is, in Discount Salmon, all the players are fishmongers whose supply comes from Lake Miasma, the world's most contaminated lake. Every single fish that comes out of it has a thing or two wrong with it.
Basically, the objective of the game is you have a bunch of cards in your hand to fix these terrible fish, and you try to have the most fish by the end of the game. So it's a trick-taking, fast-paced, speed-based kind of like party game. So it's more casual. It only takes about 10 minutes or less to play for about 2 to 5 players. And we've been play testing with some kids, and the good range seems to be 8 and up. All of the fish in Lake Miasma can have any of these 5 conditions wrong with it. They can be stinky, they can be poisonous, they can be dry, they can be ugly, or they can even be not a fish. So then you try your very best to fix these fish. If they're stinky, you can play perfume.
That's how you help a stinky fish.
If they're poisonous, you have the antidote. If they're dry, you can play some lotion on them. If they're ugly, you have some makeup.
Sure.
And if they're not a fish, just stick them in a fish costume.
Right. Right.
If you find that you're unable to fix the fish and you just want to spite the other players, if they don't already have this condition wrong with them, you can make them stinky with the rotten eggs. You can make them poisonous with the nuclear waste. You can make them dry with the blistering hot sun. You can make them ugly with the mustache. Or you can make them not a fish with the fish decoy. The blender will fix anything wrong with the fish. If you just don't want anybody else to get that fish, you can just take it out of the play completely with Andrew the Hungry Cat. Some fish can have up to 2 things wrong with them. So for every combination of those 5, there's 10 fish that have 2 things wrong with them.
So it'd be stinky and poisonous, or dry and not a fish.
And if there is ever a stalemate, everybody's staring at each other for like up to 5 seconds. Nobody can play anything, or they're not willing to play anything because they don't want to just fix one problem and somebody else gets it. If you have the deep fryer cart, you can just claim that stalemate fish. And they have this gooey wastewater on back, and you spread them out to form Lake Miasma, and whoever hates fish the most goes first. You flip a card over, and everybody races all at once. Whoever fixes the final problem wrong with the fish gets it first. So if it has more than one problem, somebody can play a card, and then you play the next card that fixes the final problem. It's speed-based. People are knocking into each other, trying to be the first to get in there, and it's pretty fun. And that is our game.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We started the company at a startup weekend in September of last year.
And Startup Weekend is basically where you try to start a company in 48 hours over the weekend.
The giveaway t-shirt they gave everybody was this garish pink color, and they'd ordered dozens and dozens of the shirt, and it was just so ugly. I thought, when you order that shirt, it has to come in discount salmon. That's the actual color.
My first question, could you guys kind of talk us through a turn of the game? Like, what does a player do on their turn?
So that person flips over a card. You look at what's in your hand and you try to fix it as quickly as possible, or you try to mess it up for the other players. Whoever fixes the final problem with that fish gets that trick. If you can only partially fix it, you can try to get some cards out of your hand and immediately draw back up, hoping to get the cards that you need. But that also risks other players being able to fix it while you're drawing back up.
So if two people play at the same time, you resolve it bottom to top, but what happens to the people who played on top of a card, played useless cards? Do they pick them back up?
They pick
They
them
pick
back
them
up.
back up.
So is there a step where you stop the real-time nature and assess? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, if everybody gets confused, like you try to inspect, but it's still in real time. Like if everybody is simultaneously confused, you're all just trying to pick through, like, what's still wrong
The
with
first
it?
person kind of figures out what went wrong. It's usually the person who's like, in that.
If somebody plays the correct thing, like it's poisonous and they cure the poison, but then can somebody still fast enough throw another bad thing on top? Or once it's cured, it's done?
Once it's cured, it's done.
Yeah, once it's cured.
So I'm really impressed with the quality of the prototype and the artwork and the design.
Thank
It's
you.
really, really nicely done. Can you guys talk a little bit about where you are in the process of making the game and what's left to do and what you've done so far?
During our playtesting, we've noticed sometimes if people don't have the cards facing the right way, they can't see what that card does. So we're considering putting the symbol on both sides so that even if they're upside down, you can still tell what it is. But for the most part, the design, I think, is probably 95% done.
Yeah, this is our third prototype that's been formalized, full deck. We've been making improvements as we've gone along. I mean, in front of you in that box, I've got the first and second versions of the game.
And the first version of the game is just like a bunch of bicycle cards with labels stuck on them. We just wanted to test that it was fun before we made art with it.
I have a question about how you resolve stalemates, or actually specifically in the process of playtesting, how often have you found that stalemates come up?
They only come up in 2 or 3 player games, and in a 3-player game, maybe once the entire game. It's actually something we could probably solve with a little bit more playtesting and maybe change a mechanic, maybe change how many cards players have in a 2-player game.
Oh yeah. The more players you have, stalemates are pretty much non-existent because everybody is contributing.
Adding to that, you mentioned that sometimes there's a delay and then in play, and then somebody can grab something for the deep fryer. So one, how do you judge the delay, and can you just go through that again?
It's an estimate of about 5 seconds if nobody is playing anything. Like you either can't play anything or you're not willing to play anything because we want to keep it fast-paced.
It's a 5-second rule?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty much a 5-second rule. You want to fry it before it goes bad.
Okay. and then so I just grab something from Max, or like I grab.
Oh no, there's
what
the
do I
actual.
do?
This
there's
is
an
the
actual
deep fryer.
template.
Right, there's a deep fryer, and so I throw Max in the deep fryer.
You
You
throw the
just
deep
put
fryer
it out there to claim the fish.
Just put it right over the top like it was any other card, except it's just.
But you said then I pass the. I
Yeah,
When
once
you've done
you've
that-
used it, the person next to you gets to use it if there's another stalemate.
If only one person has the tool that can end a stalemate, couldn't you have a situation where they don't use it and the stalemate goes on? What would happen in that case?
You're trying to have the most fish by the end of the game, so you would want to just get a freebie fish.
You mentioned that you've playtested this with people of varying ages. Have you noticed that there is a substantial difference in skill, and has that had an adverse effect when you're playing with like an 8 or 9-year-old against a 15 or 16 or
This is actually
24,
kind of fun. Our playtester, who was 12 years old, played with us, and then he taught a room full of adults, and he just soundly beat them. It was fun to watch. The difference in skill level, once you've played it once, you're going to be better than people who are new, but that doesn't last long. I mean, once people figure out the hint corners and figure out how the art goes together, it works really well.
You mentioned the number of players, 2 or 3 is when you get some stalemates. What would you say is the optimal number of players to play this game?
4 and 5. It really works very well.
Have you tested with more than that?
I don't believe so.
I don't know if we've tested
I think
with
the
6.
most we've played with is 5.
I mean, at 6, you start running out of cards to play.
Okay.
I have a couple questions. Are there 25 fish cards?
There are.
Yes.
What happens if there are 5 players and everybody gets 5 fish cards?
Well,
If there's a tie, whoever has the most red cards would win.
So a lot of real-time games have the problem, I'm not sure it's a real problem, but it is, that there are just people vastly better at real-time games, right? Like my dear friend Paul Peterson here is just simply better than I am at playing cards quickly and perceiving things on
Hundreds of hours of playing Twitch will do that.
Right. And it's cool. There's nothing wrong with that, but it does tend to lead when you take a game that's light and fun and supposed to be, you know, appealing to lots of people, which this is, suddenly they run into a blender like Paul and they don't have as much fun. Have you seen this effect?
Of all the people who've played it, I've only seen probably 5% who have that issue.
We were thinking about just making turn-based alternate rules if they really don't want to play the speed-based variant.
And it is a game that's pretty much over. Everybody's done playing it in half an hour. They've moved on to the next big game they're playing. It's a filler game.
How many times will I have played it in a half hour?
Maybe like 4 or 5
4
times.
or 5. Okay, so even if I get that deer in the headlights, I'm probably not gonna.
You're not going to be stuck with it. Even if you're deer in the headlights, that round will be over inside 10 minutes.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for coming to show us the game. We're going to hold on to your prototype for just a few minutes and look it over and talk about it, and we're going to kick you guys out, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay. Thanks for having us.
Thanks very much.
And I just want to state for the record that I only play that way with people who deserve it.
We just wanted to get some experience entering contests, and we honestly didn't think that we were going to get this far. And when we got the email, I saw the email first, and I was like, Marcus, check your phone. And Marcus was like,
Quote, holy shit. Holy shit. Yeah, we've been designing games for a little less than a year, so this is really great exposure for us. We're really thrilled about it.
Why don't you guys come up and we'll take a look at the game. So what do you guys think? I love the look of this game, and I think the illustration and the sense of humor are excellent.
Assuming this game plays as well as I think it probably does, this game's ready to go. Yeah. I mean, there's probably, like I said, we'd probably find something that we
Whatever. The number of cards might be wrong,
yeah,
but other than that,
exactly. But this game is a surefire winner.
So would you think more cards?
I don't know. It might just be that the distribution is wrong. It might be that they either have too many or too few bad conditions for the fish, and therefore solutions for them. That's what I'd be more worried about.
I mean, if it, I would love to see the game tested with a lot more players, because it seems like maybe it could work with like a big group, like 10 people.
It could. The only problem with that is that everybody has a hand of cards, and somebody can always solve the problem, and then every hand is a race, right? That's the real problem. 3 or 4 probably is a really good sweet spot, just because it will come up that there will be lots of hands where only 1 or 2 people have the solution.
Deep Fryer seemed a little clunky to me because they said that the stalemates only come up like once in a 3-person game. So then you get past the deep fryer, but you likely only the person who started with the deep fryer gets to use it.
I'd just like to say to their credit, though, I was impressed that they had a stalemate mechanic.
Right.
I figured that was going to be the gotcha there, but I was just glad they considered it. And I agree with you that another round or 2 of development could probably streamline it out, but I'm glad at least they're thinking about it.
So I would say actually that I like the deep fryer because there's a problem in a game this fast for hardcore super Twitch players, which is that the person who flips over the card has a distinct disadvantage in getting their hand back to the thing. So giving them the advantage of they get the fish if nobody else nails it can be actually
that's exactly what I was thinking. The one thing I will say in favor of the deep fryer is that at least it keeps propelling the game forward. Someone is getting a point out of that as opposed to tossing it, which I think that's good. But yeah, like putting the deep fryer on the person who's flipping over the card, I think solves exactly the problem you're talking about.
I want to show something here. this is the rules.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and this has a giant table on it and so forth. Like, this game is going to be able to fit its rules on a single folded piece of paper, and we found lots of very compelling things about the game. Like that's a huge advantage.
Yes.
I see it occupying a similar space to Cards Against Humanity. Like, it's a good group for a big group of people. You could take it out to the bar. It's a great warm-up game. It just has that, and it has a great hook. Like, you just have to tell someone the name Discount Salmon, and someone wants to learn what it's about. It's just such a compelling idea, and I love the simplicity of it. Sherry, do you have any thoughts on production or making this game?
I just wanted to comment too. By the same token, I found that the rules were really simple to read. I got through them, handed them over. I was really comfortable with them, and rules are where I always start because I have I have a vested interest in the rule part of it. I agree with you. I think that the production on this game is simple, just needs really clever packaging.
Cool. All right, well, I think we got to see the next game.
Well, we've started thinking about maybe doing a Kickstarter for it. I don't know how far down that path we've gone. We've got to talk to the manufacturer about what the costs would be and figure out if that's something we can swing. But it's great to have this level of exposure for this game.